Well, good morning, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to this virtual conference, STEM Skills, Mind the Gap. This event is the first in a series of events Euractiv is organizing with Equinor, the Norwegian energy-based company, under the branding Energize Your Day. Now, Energize Your Day was launched last year by Equinor, and it was seeking to stimulate open debate on the most pressing contemporary issues facing Europe and by extension, the world. We hope that through reflection and exchange of different perspectives, we can enhance our understanding of common challenges and promote long-term thinking, leading to solutions and, more importantly, to action. Previous editions have dealt with topics such as social movements, fake news, industrial strategy, but today, Energize Your Day will discuss the important topic of STEM, science, technology, engineering, maths, and specifically the shortage of STEM skills in Europe. Some of the questions we'll be addressing today. How can schools make STEM subjects more appealing and accessible to a wider range of students, particularly girls? How can industry and education cooperate to address the STEM challenge? And what impact will COVID have on STEM? Is there perhaps a possibility that the crisis can reignite interest in the STEM field? And how can Europe retain high-end STEM skills when faced with increasing competition from the US and Asia? These are all crucial questions that will impact Europe's competitiveness, both in the short and the long term. We're especially honored today to welcome Commissioner Gabriel, the EU Commissioner for Innovation, Research, Culture, Education and Youth. Welcome to you, Commissioner. We will hear your keynote speech in a moment, but I'd first like to introduce and hand over to Olaf Siversen, who is Equinor's Head of EU Affairs, and Olaf will moderate today's discussion.
Thank you, Ross, and thank you all for being with us online this morning. STEM skills, today's topic, is particularly important for a company like Equinor, whose vision is to shape the future of energy. To do so, we see a strong need for young talents with strong science, technology, engineering, and mathematical skills. Through our Heroes of Tomorrow program, we cooperate with scientific centers, institutions, and teaching platforms internationally in order to seek to inspire younger generation for the opportunities that lies in STEM, professionally and personally. The challenges facing Europe, be it climate change, sustainable growth, security, or even democracy, all rely on quality STEM competences for us to tackle them. The COVID-19 pandemic has brought STEM into our homes in ways we have not lived before, be it with focus on health or communication. It has also shown us more clearly that there are gaps that needs filling. We will discuss those today. Euractiv has gathered an eminent set of speakers who will help us understand the STEM gaps we have in Europe and how to close them. The way we will run this morning's event is as follows. First, we will have the privilege to hear from Commissioner Maria Gabriel. Then our discussants will be giving the opportunity to ask the Commissioner some questions before we move to the introductory remarks by our panelists, and closing with the Q&A session I will do my best to moderate. Should you wish to ask questions, please write them in the Q&A function of the Zoom app. You can refer to this event on social media by using the hashtag #EADebates or Energize Your Day or EYD. Then, without further ado, a warm welcome to Commissioner Gabriel. Thank you for being with us this morning. We look forward to learn how the Commission stands ready to, alongside member states, foster STEM in the European Union.
Thank you very much and good morning, ladies and gentlemen. I'm very happy to join you today. Thank you very much for organizing this conference, because this conference definitely comes at the right moment. I'd like to start by saying that the shortage of STEM skills across the European Union is a challenge we need to overcome. Too few young people enroll to study in STEM degrees, and many of the ones that do end up with working in non-STEM jobs that offer better conditions. This is a burning issue, especially considering the challenges we currently face. think of climate change, of the digital revolution, or the pandemic. These are challenges that can only be overcome by investing in education, science, and technology. We need people that are capable of facing these challenges, people with the right skills and technical expertise necessary to find solutions. Only they can be sure that we are moving towards a resilient, recovered, and prosperous Europe following the coronavirus crisis. But despite the increased demand for STEM skills, we find low levels of achievement and interest in maths and science all across our member states, as evidenced by the international surveys, such as the Programme for International Student Assessment. Across Europe, 1 in 5 15-year-olds has difficulties in science and maths. Furthermore, over the years, achievement levels have not moved significantly in a positive direction. We are still on the wrong side of our benchmark of less than 15% of 15-year-olds underachieving in science, maths, and reading. In addition, we know that girls and women tend to find their way to tech jobs less often. We need to ensure that girls and women are well prepared for the future of work. This gender gap is not rooted in ability at a young age. Differences in maths and science performance in PISA at the age of 15 are negligible. It is not rooted in a lack of interest either. PISA data indicates that both genders are equally interested in science careers. Yet there is a difference in chosen fields of science. Girls tend to choose the biomedical sciences, and boys more often choose the physical sciences and computer technology. So the question I would like to help answer today is, how can we make STEM occupations more attractive to people in Europe, and in particular to women? I believe the answer of this question can be found in 3 points. We need to break stereotypes, contextualize STEM, and invest in the general understanding of STEM by the whole of society, not just experts. First, breaking stereotypes. Stereotypes about scientists and the lab can discourage some students from engaging further with science. Is computer technology really a masculine field? Is biomedicine a feminine one? We need to break these stereotypes. Schools and higher education can look at ways to promote gender-sensitive teaching and provide better career advice. Students should have access to information that is credible and avoid unrealistic or exaggerated portrayals. To tackle gender stereotypes, especially digital ones, we need to continue to implement the Women in Digital strategy, in particular its second pillar. And for example, I will continue to recognize and promote our talented role models, or I will continue No Women, No Panel campaign. We also need events that bring science closer to our people and actual scientists in contact with our learners. That's why I'm planning an initiative at European level to facilitate this process. Researchers at schools. It's an initiative with which we would like to stimulate students to start a career in science. After all, scientific work is not longer confined to laboratories or universities. It takes place all around us, from big multinationals through NGOs and think tanks to small and medium-sized enterprises, and contributes to our well-being. To bring students closer to science, we also have our annual contest, the European Union Contest for Young Scientists. And another initiative is in order to recognize women in science. That's why we have our European Prize for Women Innovators. This prize is aimed at Europe's most innovative women, the ones that created their own research-based innovation companies and brought game-changing innovation to market. Since its launch in 2018, we have received over 740 applications and rewarded 25 brilliant women innovators. Remarkably, this year, despite the COVID-19 crisis, we saw an increase in the number of applications. Second, if we want to motivate and inspire our young people to be more interested in science and technology, we need to contextualize it. After all, these are fields often detached from everyday experience. And to address this issue, we need close cooperation between schools and industry. This collaboration provides students with the necessary real-life context. It motivates them to pursue diverse science and technology careers. It also helps addressing the shortage of STEM teachers through the promotion of alternative pathways to teaching. In that respect, the Commission helped with the establishment of several European-wide initiatives, such as the STEM Coalition and the STEM Alliance platform, stimulating collaboration among STEM teachers, researchers, and policymakers. We definitely should continue to go in this direction. But being close to real-life application is not enough. We can do more. We can connect STEM fields to political, environmental, economic, and cultural contexts. This often involves multidisciplinary pedagogies. We know these practices as the STEAM approach to science education. STEAM embraces the creative potential of connecting STEM education with the arts, the humanities, and the social sciences. Of course, we are backing this approach with our flagship program for education, Erasmus+. In the period 2017-2020, Erasmus+ funded 36 strategic partnerships and 8 forward-looking cooperation and policy experimentation projects dealing with a variety of subjects connected to recontextualizing science. There was work on curriculum development in engineering, STEAM pedagogies, ICT, artificial intelligence, and we are planning to strengthen these type of projects in the future Erasmus program too. Let me also say now a few words about the upcoming initiatives I'm working on. In September, I will present the updated Digital Education Action Plan, where developing digital competencies will remain a priority, and the overall objective will be to close the digital skills gap and make digital literacy a reality for all. Inclusion in general and gender equality in particular are guiding principles and will have a prominent place in the action plan. I will promote gender balance in digital and STEM studies and careers. I want to see more girls and women improve their skills in areas like artificial intelligence, for example. So I'd like really to invite you, the participants in today's conference, to take part in the public consultation that we launched 18th of June. Share with my team your views on the future of digital education, because certainly you have a lot of concrete ideas, and that's what we need now. Also in September, in a new communication, I will propose further steps to build the European education area by 2025. Among many other things, we'll consider how to deal with the problem of teacher shortages in specific subjects such as STEM. These two initiatives will work hand in hand with the recently adopted skills agenda, which will also support STEM networks to promote policies, strategies, and initiatives at European, national, and regional levels to raise the attractiveness of STEM studies and careers. This brings me to my third and last point. We cannot just invest in bringing young people to STEM without investing in bringing society closer to STEM. STEM education is the most powerful tool for the development of the analytical skills and critical thinking necessary now, vital in our modern technology-rich world. Yet the Eurobarometer survey showed that the number of Europeans who appreciate the benefits of science and technology is decreasing. Roughly half of our fellow Europeans are distrustful of science and scientists. The wave of false claims and disinformation that swept the world with the coronavirus outbreak further complicated the situation. Therefore, we need decisive actions against disinformation, which, among other things, undermine the trust in science and technology and endanger the health and well-being of our citizens. We need to invest in critical thinking and media literacy. We also need to the help of the media to highlight the many innovative people, brilliant researchers, and their ideas that can inspire younger generation to engage in STEM studies and careers. And we need to bring just science closer to our citizens. At the European level, we aim to popularize science and research through events such as the European Researchers' Night. This event means for regular citizens what the Researchers at Schools initiatives mean for students. It brings us closer together, giving a human face to science. And that's why one of the last initiatives that I had, that's the social campaign European Women for Future. Together with my team, we decided to make visible and to popularize every week 4 extraordinary women, innovators, doing STEM studies, teaching STEM studies. Because for me, that should be at our agenda every week, not only when we have celebrations for 8th of March. Ladies and gentlemen, STEM competencies are an integral component of the key competencies that every learner should master. We need to invest in helping our citizens, including girls and women, to be interested and invested in science from a young age. We can only do this through breaking stereotypes, bringing STEM closer to the context that make these fields more interesting to a broader set of people, and investing in the general understanding of STEM by the whole of society. I count on your feedback and expertise to help us continue to bridge this gap. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Commissioner, for these inspiring remarks. If you have time for one question, I understand you are very busy, but on your third point on investment, EU member states spend average 4.6% of GDP on education. Is spending more or differently the answer to addressing the same STEM challenges, you believe?
Definitely, our member states need to invest in education in general and in STEM in particular, because it's not anymore an investment in our future, it's an investment in our present. We all have seen during the crisis how important it is to have skilled, equipped people that can really tackle challenges and that can propose solutions. That's why on our side, yes, we count that member states will endorse a strong budget for Erasmus Plus program. But on the other side, we count that in their national strategies, in the next generation recovery plan, there will be an essential part for investing in STEM. And another initiative, it will be really to work more closely with our regions, because we all know what are our competencies as European Commission in the field of education, what are the competencies of the member states. What is important for me is really to see how we can help by more young people in STEM education. We can really develop solutions, we can build ecosystem, and we can just give them a perspective to show them that Europe is their home, that here they can develop their ideas, they can show us their potential. That's why actually I'm working with the Committee of Regions on a joint action plan for the next 2 years, because I think that definitely we should address that at the ground, where the things happen. Finally, another very good initiative is our European Universities Initiative, because definitely we would like really now to have a different approach where we can see STEM education, innovation, research integrated at the beginning of the curriculum. And we already know that there is a lot of European university alliances that will insist a lot on this topic. And I'm very glad to see that together we can really propose at least some additional initiatives to tackle these challenges. Finally, September, for me, it's the month where with the Digital Education Action Plan, with the role of the STEM Coalition, with the role of all of us, stakeholders, civil society, institutions, regions, we can really show that the engagement, when we would like to have more people in STEM education, it's not just an investment for the future, but it's an investment for our talents, for our people, young people, to give them perspectives for jobs. And it's about our leadership as Europe, because by investing in STEM, Europe has a chance really to affirm the added value of his own approach.
Thank you. Now is the time to lean in on the strategy that will be presented in September. So for all of you on the call, prepare your pens and present your ideas. Good ideas will result in STEM talents across the European Union and hopefully more heroes of tomorrow. I'll now invite MEP Lina Gaudius-Munoz to take the floor and share her views on how to promote STEM in Europe. Lina, the floor is yours.
Okay, thank you very much. Very nice to be here, very glad to be here to have this invitation to speak about a topic I know is very close to Commissioner Gabriel's heart as mine. The first time we met in September last year, we were talking exactly about that. So I'm really very glad, because as we know, talent are equally spread, but opportunities are not. And we have big challenges, and we really need to tackle that problem that we are still we're missing on STEM, especially on STEM, to be honest, because the problem is not as much in science, but in technology itself. And we also are missing men on the care side of the society. So it is important to balance as well this other part. So I completely agree with all the issues that the Commissioner Gabriel has been saying, that very young girls are performing in science, in technology, as well as boys. They are really interesting, but when they arrive to high school, they start really to choose differently, and it is because of a very different socialization that starts in the families, school, in media, in culture, in video games, in all over around. So if we really want to face that problem, we have to also to take a very holistic view of that, and very sort of comprehensive way of tackling that theme. I will even words are important. I will just share with you one example of what happened in my country, in Spain, in the 1990s. Computer science degree changed its name to computer engineer, and women disappeared. Up to that moment, there were still women present, but when the word engineer get into the degree title, women started to decrease. I mean, it's like when we take these computer women on the NASA in the 1960s, they were considered unskilled, temporary workers. They were all trained on math. And when the profession became a kind of trendy, a very well-paid profession, it became a male profession. So these are trends that are happening. So we have been working on how to incentivize girls to get into STEM, women to get in STEM careers, making more attractive that field. But it is true that there is something missing, or we have failed with something, because we have obviously to, I really appreciate all the initiatives Commissioner Gabriel has been sharing with us, but probably we need to go a bit even beyond education, beyond business. The Commissioner mentioned media, but probably in media, when I was regional minister for universities, and knowledge and science in general, although I was only for a while, I proposed to the public television to make a TV contest like the ones on cooking or singing for girls and boys, and making the schools to participate in a very balanced way with girls and boys, and to develop a TV contest. They say no, it's not good. So, but I thought it was the way to get the schools and to get really the boys and girls to get there, because it's what they like now. So we have also to think what they like, and we have also to develop to be able to arrive to them. So I think it's very important, working with regions as well, because it's probably easier to do all that from regions. But from the public sector, we really need to work very close with society. We really need to very close to industry, and to make it on a very, as I say, very coherent way. Another thing that is, in my opinion, missing, and from the European Parliament, we are working very hard on that, is data sets. We don't have enough information. We don't have enough data. We don't have enough, not only disaggregated data, but we don't have data in certain aspects that has a very very relevant from a gender perspective. There is one artist and scientist which in the United States, which is called Nimir Noma, that in 2016 created the Library of Missing Data Set, and it is physically a cabinet filled with folders labeled with things that are important, and probably we should have information about that. But when you take that file, it's empty, because there is no data about it. So there is a lot of missing data. Also at the European Union level, we have all the gender data is in EIGE, is at the European Institute for Gender Equality, but Eurostat, that is the one really taking all the data from all member states, is in certain aspects still missing a gender perspective. And we still need to go a bit further on it. I'm glad the Commissioner Gabriel said that it will promoting and showing women not only through this prize, which is very important, but also making visible women, because another problem we have is that the society does not give us authority. We have seen now in the pandemic that the experts are mainly men. And we have a lot of women on these related fields to fight the pandemic, but experts are in many countries. The ones that are going out in the media are still men, probably because they feel more confident. And we know that the pandemic is very new. We don't know exactly the answers of many things. So women, we are socialized and say, well, we have to be very careful when we don't know the real answer, but men are not like this in this respect. So we are seeing more and more men. So still the expert idea, what is an expert, this scientist, and is still a man. I will not take much because we know, especially, but the gap, especially worrying, as we know, in tech, as I was saying before, in the ICT specialist, women are below 2% in the European labor market. And it is not only that most job or the best job will be created in those fields. 58 million job creation are expected, but there will be the best jobs, so the best well-paid jobs. So probably the gender gap will be increasing if we don't make something for that. And very important to me is because those people will be the people just designing our future, our cosmovision, and that it can't be that biased. it cannot really be that bias. It's just men, mainly white men, are, you know, building that future, and only just few women. We also know that 58 of jobs at risk of automation are women's jobs. So we really need to have that very much in mind. And for that reason, I'm going to say something about the recovery plan that we are expected to go on with the European Union level. That obviously is tackling the problems countries are having because of the pandemic, but it's also, you know, including the path toward the two big transformation we have to do, which is the green one, obviously, and the digital one. But most of the jobs that will be created in those fields will be male jobs. The renewable energy sector is male dominated. The automotive sector, the electric cars, whatever, is male dominated. The renewable in building is male dominated. Digital and technology is male dominated. So we have to be very careful, because unless we really put a third transition on that, which is also the social organization of care and a better balance, as I said before, we could be, and we work also on making possible that women and girls decided to get into STEM. Maybe we will see an increase on gender gap. So at the same time, we are promoting women in STEM. We really need to think of this social organization of care and to arrive to a better balance. Otherwise, it will happen as it has happened now during the lockdown, that all the scientific journal has reported that the number of original papers sent by women scientists during the lockdown has gone down. In fact, the first one was a philosophy saying that no original they did not receive in the first month, no original from any woman. So this is, I think, very important. So I just finished saying that we really need a very holistic, a very coherent approach, and not only tackling this promotion of girl and women in science. We really need to change also labor market. We need to work on culture, on media, but also to make possible that the care burden is better balance among women and men. Otherwise, possibly we will not succeed on making women entering those sectors. Thank you.
Thanks, Lina, and thanks for insisting also on the social dimension of STEM. We have also Salvatore Niro, CEO of GA Europe, Young Achievers Europe, on the call this morning. The floor is yours.
Thank you so much, Olaf. Thank you to Euractiv, and thank you to Equinor for organizing this event. I think I'm in camera. Okay. So after listening both to Commissioner Gabriel and definitely the Member of Parliament, I came to the conclusion that the STEM skills gap is not a STEM problem. If it was a STEM problem, we would have solved it. The issue is a problem of space and time. Is the space where STEM education is, which means there is a prejudice for young people to go into STEM careers, to study STEM careers. There is a problem of making them appealing. There is a problem of bringing together the private sector close to the educational institutions in order to show really what is the future, what is expected, and what will expect the young people when they sort out from the educational system from a STEM skills educational path. And there's a problem of time. We continue to study things for which there are no jobs in the future. So if we really want to solve a non-related STEM problem, we need to act in the space that surrounds it and in the time by imagining what will be the jobs and the skills that are required by the young people when they get out of schools, and work backwards and includes it into the educational system. Now, I was born in the land where Pythagoras, many centuries ago, has created the Pythagoras school. So when we talk about mathematics and geometry, something we know about it. And Pythagoras also say that concern should drive us into action and not into depression. So the action, at least the junior achievement, is that we reach 4.2 million children and youth every year in 40 European countries, even beyond the European Union. And we instill entrepreneurship, work readiness, and financial literacy since the very young age to create this appetite to the young people, to create an appetite of looking at the solutions. Because STEM starts with a problem that you want to resolve, whether it is in IT, in biomedical, in even agriculture, or in manufacturing. So, but we tell the young people to focus on what would be the solution. And in these challenging times, we know that we have many problems, but our young people are really building on their resilience and coming up with creative ideas that innovate and resolve it. The same is for, and let me just open a very short parenthesis here about the digital skills. We focus a lot on digital skills. We know we need to embrace digital transformation in many of our educational systems to prepare the young people for the world of tomorrow. But the issue is also how do we make sure that those digital skills are transforming the soft skills of the young people. Because it's not the same to have a conference out there in Brussels or being connected as we are doing it today to virtual means, how to be effective in your messaging, how you want your message to go through. At Junior Achievement, we do many of our programs related to STEM, and especially because we apply STEM skills in entrepreneurial projects. We have great alliance with the EU STEM Alliance, actually. We work with the EIT, the European Institute of Technology, both for manufacturing, for raw material, for food, and for technology itself in different countries, where we instill since a very young age to the young people that this is a path that they should follow. Let me stop here. We'll get back in the continuation of this interesting debate.
Thanks a lot, Salvatore. Without further ado, we'll move to Alexa Joyce, who is Director for Education Policy, Teaching and Learning at Microsoft, world-class tech company. Alexa, please share your thoughts around how to close the gap on STEM.
Thank you. And at Microsoft, this is obviously a major issue and something that we've been working on very deeply for a long period of time together with the European institutions, but also with the ministries of education through strong partnership at national level, but also with European SchoolNet. And I think from our perspective, I would see several key issues when we think about the STEM skills issue in Europe. I think we've covered already very well the figures and the challenge that we face. I think as we look at the STEM education challenge, we've essentially need to take a pipeline approach. So firstly, we know we need to grow the pipeline. And one of the major challenges we have, not just in Europe, but in many Western countries, is that young people are shifting the way that they choose careers, shifting the way that they select what they want to do in life and connect it to personal aspiration and a sense of vocation, what they can do to change the world. And many young people don't think that science or technology is going to give them that opportunity. The current type of pedagogy that we have in many schools in Europe is very traditional, very dry. Our curriculum encourage traditional recall-based approaches to teaching and learning. And we know that that turns off a big group of students, whether it's girls, whether it's people coming from ethnic minorities. And those types of challenges are significant. The STEM teaching population is aging. We need to give them much more support in terms of innovating their approaches to pedagogies. And the research that we've done through partnerships with European SchoolNet, but also through our own internal research, has demonstrated that taking more innovative pedagogical approaches, project-based approaches, based around solving big picture challenges like, for instance, the Sustainable Development Goals, and giving young people the opportunity to understand how technology can be used in a hands-on way to solve big issues, big challenges out there in the world, is incredibly powerful for getting them more excited about STEM, because they understand it's a creative process. It's a process that's for problem solving. It's a process that involves working in teams. All of those challenges that we have in terms of perception of what STEM is can be addressed in the classroom, but we need to get that training and those tools out there. And we've seen, even from our perspective, it can be tools which we think of as very playful. So we have a Minecraft Education Edition, which is an education version of one of the most popular gaming platforms in the world. We've seen in research that we just published last week that we can have a tangible impact on students' achievement in mathematics by using teaching and learning materials in the Minecraft education environment, where students can try things out that they couldn't necessarily do in real life. And it's just incredibly motivating for them to get the opportunity to work together in a platform like that they think of as really fun. We also need to make sure that within education, when we bring in these types of innovative approaches, that we do keep the inclusion issue in mind. What I think is thrilling is that these types of new approaches are appealing to girls, appealing to ethnic minorities, and so help us to address the inclusion issue while also raising general interest and achievement in STEM. And as we move through into higher education, I think there's a big need to also re-infuse a lot of current curricula with more technology in the way that we do science. So for instance, my first degree was in biological science. I think I had one module around bioinformatics. It was tiny. But today, if you're developing a new vaccine, if you're developing a new drug, if you're analyzing somebody's genome, you need to be using technology. You need to be using big data approaches. You need to be using the cloud. So thinking about how do we infuse also some of those wider STEM curricula with technology so that we can make sure that actually our way of doing science is digitally transformed and more effective is also critical when we think about the higher education space as well. I also wanted to connect to what Lena was mentioning earlier as well about the kind of the leaky pipeline and the work conditions as well. I think what we see is there is also that big challenge that many people leave the profession after a few years. And a lot of that is about, first of all, inclusive hiring strategies. And at Microsoft, we are incentivized to be as inclusive as possible in our hiring approaches. So we really make sure we get a good pool of candidates who are diverse and can help us to develop diverse and inclusive solutions and platforms which are more successful out there in the market. But also it's about having those inclusive work conditions once people get in the door of the company as well. And just for example, during the COVID response, we were all across the company, whether women or men, given time to take off, to be able to spend time doing homeschooling, to balance the challenges that we might be having, caring for older parents, whatever that might be, making sure that we have approaches to our working conditions that give people the opportunity to be flexible and to be authentic and to not just be focused only on work, but to really show up as authentic selves in the workplace and balance both types of needs and not be penalized that from a career advancement perspective. And I think these types of flexible approaches are absolutely critical to ensure that we have an inclusive pipeline once people come into the workplace. So I think it's about having systemic approaches from education through to how we behave in the workplace, and thinking not just about having great philanthropic campaigns or short-term activities, but making this the new normal in the way that we educate and the way that we recruit and the way that we sustain STEM careers.
Thank you, Alexa. Our last panelist today is Michael Horgan, Policy Officer with GG Employment. You're looking at this from a more skills agenda perspective, Michael. I'm interested to hear your perspectives on STEM in that regard.
Yes, thank you very much for inviting me to take part in this panel. Indeed, I'm from the unit that has been coordinating the updated skills agenda, so we've had a very busy time, especially up to the 1st of July, and of course it's continuing. Maybe the first thing I would say is that we see that STEM skills are absolutely essential for innovation. And the EIB has done work recently showing that 77% of EU firms say that lack of skills, and particularly STEM skills, are holding back innovation and are a barrier to investment. Also, STEM is extremely important to delivering on the green and digital transitions that the other speakers have mentioned. And we see that from our Cedefop data, that the demand for STEM skills and, for example, researchers is going to increase markedly, not only because of job openings, but also because of, as has been mentioned earlier, the demographic, people leaving mainly for reasons of retirement, people leaving their jobs. However, as has been said, on the supply side, we see that only 1 in 5 young people is doing STEM tertiary education. And if we look at the number of graduates going to come on stream in Europe compared to particularly China, in China, I've seen figures that say that before 2030, there will be a 300% increase in STEM graduates, while in Europe and the US, we're talking more about something like 30%. So, and has been mentioned by all speakers, the gender aspect of all this is extremely important. So, in the updated skills agenda of the 1st of July, we were more explicit about STEM and the need to increase STEM graduates than we were in the previous one. Of course, in the previous one, STEM was always around in our things like sectoral blueprints and in our approach to vocational education and training. But in the new skills agenda, we will explicitly contribute to the increase of STEM graduates by raising attractiveness of STEM studies and careers, particularly focusing on attracting girls and women, and on cross-disciplinary and innovative teaching and learning approach that has also been mentioned, and also, of course, in introducing activities for teachers and to address the shortage of STEM teachers. Also, very importantly, working on promoting an integrated framework and learning continuum, particularly between schools, secondary and higher education systems, and business in partnership. This is something very central to all our work in the skills agenda. But as well as STEM, I would like to stress that the importance of boosting the skills pipeline all along and at all levels as the basis of ensuring a supply of the skills that will eventually enable us to increase our STEM skills. So I think this is our central concern in the skills agenda, trying to keep the pipeline of skills open. In particular, for instance, digital skills is very important part of our skills agenda, as it was in the previous skills agenda. As we know, nearly 90% of jobs require digital skills, but we have 40% of Europeans that still lack basic digital skills, according to our Digital Economy and Society Index. And then at the high end, we see that the European labour market could absorb another 750,000 ICT practitioners if only the supply was there. And here again, important gender dimension, which has already been mentioned, with a very low number of ICT professionals, less than 17% of the total. So the new skills agenda of July 1st puts a spotlight on digital skills. The Commissioner also mentioned the update of the Digital Education and Action Plan to improve digital literacy at all levels. And then there's a Digital European program, the Digital Europe program, that will address the high level artificial intelligence, supercomputing, and cybersecurity. Then we were particularly interested in looking at jumpstart courses, what some people call boot camps, which can really help young people through a very intensive short course to have a ICT career, and also looking at supporting SMEs with digital crash courses. So for the first time, we have introduced the idea of a very ambitious objective on digital skills, 70% of adult population to have at least digital skills by 2025. That's our objective that we set in the skills agenda. And as has been mentioned by a previous speaker, the connection between digital and transversal skills and soft skills is very critical to our work. And we want to absolutely foster the 21st century skills, working together, critical thinking, creative problem solving, and so on. And we will be working on improving the recognition and validation of transversal skills. Maybe coming to the end of what I have to say, I would just like to stress the importance of VET, vocational education and training, in this whole STEM story. But VET is a key provider, and particular higher VET, and has a key role to play in the supply of STEM and digital skills. And nearly half of graduates in higher education and VET with STEM specialization are actually from the VET sector. And we are promoting, for example, things like centers of vocational excellence to try to build ecosystems of excellence in VET. And a lot of them will be working on STEM skills. Maybe just to finish, my last point is, and it was mentioned by MEP Munoz, it's about data. It's indeed extremely important. We talk about the shortage of STEM, but we know that it's not the same in every sector. There are big differences between sectors. So we see a lot of mileage in strengthening skills intelligence in the updated skills agenda. For instance, using big data possibilities that are just arriving on stream. And we will be able to see get a much more clear picture at a regional and sectoral level of where are the gaps, and be able to nuance our data. So maybe, thank you, I will leave it there.
Thank you, Michael. Thank for also bringing up the VET issue. I know that Lina might need to leave a bit earlier, and I would like to bring her in on one question. In 2016, the regional government of Madrid, as one of the first in Europe, made a course on technology and robotics compulsory and equipped every secondary school with a 3D printer. Today, Madrid and Catalonia are the only regions of Spain where programming and robotics are taught at primary and secondary level. And one of the goals is to make young technology creators not merely technology consumers. But again, these two regions are the richest of Spain. And that begs the question, how do we ensure that children get equal access to STEM skills? And I'll also ask Alexa to come in on that, because I know Microsoft is doing work in regions of the world that are not very affluent, and still they manage to help people getting access to STEM education. But Lina, first to you, how do we ensure that children get equal access to STEM skills, as we've seen in these two examples from Spain?
Sorry, now. Yeah, well, we know Spain is not called a federal government, but it works as a federal government in many issues, in education, health, or universities. For instance, when I was the regional minister of universities, the competences were in the regional minister for 9 million people, for instance, but in a poor region, because Andalusia is not a very rich region. So it is on the one hand, it is easier access to, is closer to work with citizens, and the policies could be better implemented. But on the other hand, of course, there are huge inequalities regarding different budgets and different necessities in the different fields. The problem now, I think, is that in the last years, we have been seeing a kind of concentration of innovation in very, very, very big cities and very specific. It has not happened only in Spain. Spain, we have Madrid and Barcelona, mainly more Madrid, even more Madrid than Barcelona. We have in the UK, we have London, we have Paris, we have Amsterdam. We have very specific place where more and more and more and more these opportunities of good jobs and very innovative jobs are concentrated more and more. So young people are going there. So and even fiscally, those regions are having much more income and possibilities under that. So I think in order to make a balance, we really need solidarity within Europe among countries and within the member state among regions. Otherwise, we will end up missing a lot of talents again. Because as I said at the very beginning, talents are equally spread. It doesn't matter that Madrid region is a richer region than Andalusia, or that Amsterdam is richer than any other place in, I don't know, Eastern Europe. It doesn't matter. Really, what we need to work is in opportunities. And when talking about opportunities, it's not only how we prepare, how we will educate, but also showing those people from less developed regions that they will be able to arrive. So role models and all these things we were talking about, all these side issues, not only education, it is important, but also creating job opportunities, because they will only see these job opportunities far away from their land, as is happening now. It's not that it's not happening now, it's already happening now. So we really need to work, and Hypermaker organized here, the GMPL, because we really need to work a lot on labor markets, but obviously, of course, we will like many firms like Microsoft, Alexia, I hope, but the reality is that bias are everywhere in the recruiting process a lot. And so we really need to work all together on not only in the education side, which is very important, but also showing those girls and boys that they will be able to develop their careers if they choose that path, and also that it is not necessary for them to emigrate. So we really need to work very hard with the regional governments, regional hubs. I mean, Salvatore mentioned the EIT. I mean, I've been one of the rapporteurs for the 2 EIT files that will start on, we will have the first trialogue on Thursday. One of the things we were very much concerned, and we think we have worked quite a lot, was on improving both the regional and the gender imbalances that were in the EIT and in the European Institute of Technology and Innovation, and as a way also in innovation as a whole. So we really, again, very coherent, but of course we need also solidarity among regions, and to not concentrate or not making policies that concentrate everything in just a couple of cities or a couple of regions. Thank you.
Alexa, do you have examples from how you worked elsewhere in the world on how we could get sort of digital skills or STEM being brought out to regions that are less affluent and can't build sort of, or can't offer their schools 3D printers and not even a computer to or a tablet to all pupils in their classes?
Yeah, absolutely. So I think one of the things which is important when we think about STEM education is actually that having a shared device is a very good thing to have in many classrooms. We don't have to think that every single student needs their own device, because actually working together on something fosters teamwork. And one person can be planning an approach on paper while the other is working on a computer trying to capture that and to build a model, whatever that might be. I do think, though, that what we're seeing right now across Europe and indeed across the world is a recognition that to provide digital education, and particularly when we're thinking about hybrid and remote learning contexts in the situation of COVID, we do need to invest massively in getting more technology in the hands of students. There are still far too many students who have costly access to data in the home, who may be simply using a smartphone that belongs to a parent and things like this. So I think that challenge is something that we need within the education system to address more broadly, to get more broad access to technology, because ultimately, unless you have access to some technology, it's going to be very hard to learn how to actually produce the technology. So I think that's one big challenge, and we're working really hard with all of our technology ecosystem to reduce the cost of devices to the lowest possible point for education. So if you're a school, you will be purchasing devices significantly cheaper than if you're a business or a private consumer. So that's one thing that we've worked on really hard. The other thing is removing the barriers in terms of cost to the platforms for learning. So on our side, we have a long-term commitment to offering education institutions free access to the Office suite and to Teams, so that students and teachers can collaborate and work together and share assignments and resources and so on digitally. And that's completely free for any institution that wants to use it. But then very specifically around the STEM and the digital training piece, we've made available virtualized approaches to working hands-on with chipsets, for instance. So platforms like the microbit or the circuit playground, which gives students the opportunity to understand how physical computing works as well as abstract computing. We've virtualized those so that students can use them online without necessarily having the physical equipment in their hands, which is also great for those who want to reinforce it through homework. So maybe you have the physical apparatus in the school, but then you're working virtually when you get home so you can continue on your project. And then as students get older, we've also launched the Microsoft Learn platform for students, where we have a huge amount of fantastic training on the cloud, on AI, on data science, much of it oriented around solving major societal challenges. So for instance, how can you use big data to solve climate challenges, or for tracking distribution of endangered species and so on. So trying to make available as much as possible at cost-free training resources that students can use individually, but also the full downloadable curricula so that teachers in vocational colleges, in universities, can access those materials and integrate them into the curriculum as they see fit. And I think trying to reduce those barriers to entry is critical to enabling more diverse groups to get engaged. But also, I think from a workforce perspective, COVID has had a knock-on effect in terms of the acceptance within the wider economy of remote working. So I think, I've been remote working for the past 6 years since I joined Microsoft. For us, it's business as usual, but for many companies, this is super new. And I think this is really changing mindsets in terms of where we hire people. Do we require them to be living right next to the office and being in the office every day? Or can we be more broad-minded about where talent is located and go out and get brilliant young programmers, whether they're sitting in somewhere very rural or whether they're sitting in Amsterdam. So I hope that this new normal is going to influence the way that we think about hiring more broadly across the economy as things move on post-COVID.
Great, Alexa. We started a bit late, but we will make an effort to close on time. But I have a question for you, Salvatore. In terms of cooperation between industry and education, is that happening enough, or is it smart enough in view of the STEM challenge that we have in front of us? What can we learn from some of the examples that GA Europe is pursuing or have carried out in their operations?
Well, we work with 150,000 business volunteers across Europe that actually go into 50,000 educational institutions and are paired with teachers. So the teachers who have a great value in their pedagogy and the way they're teaching, obviously teaching the young people, paired with what the private sector needs, what the labor market needs. This is not only good for the youth and for the education. This is good for the business, Because if the business is coming closer to the educational institution, we'll reduce the costs in identifying, recruiting, further training, retaining the talent that they need to grow their business and to support the economy. So we have seen definitely that there is an added value both for the educational system, but also most importantly for the business too itself, by pairing teachers with business volunteers. But also certification is important. This one, with the European Commission, we launched the Entrepreneurial Skills Pass, and now we're bringing it globally, beyond, to really certify what are the skills that the new entrepreneurs, not only those on who will get a job in STEM, but also will create their own company that is STEM related, will do it. Finally, one thing is about training. The other things is about creation. And this is why in our programs, we create a lot of challenges for the young people, not only to create their mini companies, but to bring that alive. It's a challenge itself that is not based on passive methodology of education, but very active methodology, because the young person are the ones who are redesigning the future and the world of work in which they will enter.
Thank you, Salvatore. And we will draw the debate to a close there. I think the 3 points that Commissioner Gabriel left us with in terms of us having to breach the stereotypes and the issues of stereotypes across the European Union, that we need to contextualize better our need for STEM and make sure that we have a close cooperation between industry and our education system. And the third point, obviously, we need to invest more, both as nation states, but also as industry, will be the 3 points that I'll take with me from this debate. I hope you have enjoyed the debate. I certainly have. I would like to thank the panelists and also Commissioner Gabriel for having taken time to be with us. And hopefully you will be dialing into another Energize Your Day debate soon to come, which we will organize with Euractiv as per usual. Thanks a lot. Have a good day all.